Welcome to Transformative Principal, where I help you stop putting out fires and start leading. I am your host, Jethro Jones. You can follow me on Twitter at Jethro Jones. Welcome to Transformative Principal. I am so excited to have Joshua DeSmyter on the program today. He is the proud principal of Shrevwood Elementary in Falls Church, Virginia. He has worked in education for 15 years in Detroit, Washington, D.C., and now in Virginia. Josh is currently in his 8th year as an administrator in Fairfax County Public Schools, and he leads with the 3 core beliefs of family, excellence, and relationships at the forefront of his work. Josh has taken Shrevwood Elementary School from a 54% engaged school community to a 94% engaged school community in just 3 short years by instilling a culture of joy. He is currently a finalist for FCPS's Outstanding New Principal of the Year award, and by the time this comes out, he may very well be the Outstanding New Principal of the Year. So, Josh, welcome to Transformative Principal.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, Jethro. Thank you so much for having me on. And I love the last part. You're pumping me up a little bit there. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, we don't always get that pumping up, so it's good when somebody else is willing to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to talk. So first of all, I like telling people how we got connected. You are doing a program called Cultured Kids, and we had Michelle on the podcast, episode 476. So we had her on, and she talked about Cultured Kids, which is this program that she's doing. You have adopted it in your school, and so that's awesome, and it helps kids understand culture and all of that. And you are the principal of this school that you've instilled a culture of joy. Talk to us about what that culture of joy is.
Yeah, it's at our school. You know, when I became the principal here, it was my first year as a principal, coming out of being an assistant principal and just being excited. I always think about the analogy of the handcuffs coming off, and you have all these creative ideas, and I had so many things that I wanted an elementary school to be, a work environment to be, and thought it should be. And I always think about, Sunday afternoon, you're getting ready for Monday, and Jethro, you and I talked about this before, but it's that you start to think about the Sunday scaries and what, I have to get up and go to work tomorrow. And wouldn't it be great to work in an environment where you didn't feel like that, where you're excited to go and to be there every day, and to be around kids, or to do something that you love so much. And when I got the principalship, I thought, what a wonderful opportunity to try to accomplish this. And so we have worked over the last 3 years of hiring quality candidates who instill family excellence and relationships, and who have those core beliefs in their answers when we interview them, and when we have discussions with them, so that they love what they do, and they love being around the kids. And so it's the positivity, it's modeling, it's the consistency, the power of showing up every day, and doing it with a smile on your face, and just being happy with what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's all well and good, Josh. I like that. That's great. But that doesn't really create a culture of joy. So there's got to be something more to it than just not dreading coming into work. Like, I hate that idea of, oh, it's Monday and hallelujah, it's Friday. Like, that stuff just drives me crazy, because then you're just living for the weekend. And if that's a very small amount of your time, it's so much better to really love what you're doing every single day. And having been someone who's been there most of my career, I can see when I wasn't there how awful it really was for me. And I think I think the question I'm really getting at here is, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to help people feel like what they're doing at work really matters and gives them meaning
Hmm.
and is something they can have joy in?
Yeah, it's a number of things, and I think that it's the individual conversations that you have with each person, and taking advantage of being a really good listener, and learning about who they are so that you can help them grow as leaders in the building, and to instill you know leadership upon other people that they interact with day in and day out. So I see it as like those individual conversations that you have, the one-on-one conversations where they come to you and they're looking for advice, and you're listening, and you're really hearing where the problem is, and then you're helping coaching them through how to get to the answers of those problems. And then managing the message. It's surrounding yourself with people who, I've heard this before, who are smarter than you at times, and that can manage the message in our building of a growth mindset, and continuing to learn and get better, and reframing conversations that they would have with individuals, and it just trickles down. And then also their level of consistency. We met today in a we call them the professional development team. It's a core team that I meet with on the regular, bi-weekly one-on-one meetings, and then we meet as a team monthly. And it's being able to continue to influence others around you to instill that culture of joy. So it's just, I believe, to answer your question, it's the individual conversations that you have with people, and then developing the leaders around you to have and empower them to have those individual conversations of positivity and leadership.
Yeah. So I liken it to I had a leader one time named Larry Lawrence who, whenever I wanted to talk to him, I felt like I was the only person that he was overseeing, but there were like 150 other people that he was in charge of. But he always made me feel like I was the only one that mattered. Like I was the only
Yeah.
one that who had these concerns, even though, I was young, early leader. I didn't really get a lot of things about leadership back then. I still have a
Hmm.
ton to learn, but that was one thing where I always felt like, man, he cares about me specifically more than he cares about anyone else,
Yeah.
especially in the moment that I'm with him. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I've only met like 5 people like that in my entire life, but like you said, you never forget it, right? And you want to, and I think that's a skill that you can learn, but it also is, you have to be very observant in that way. And I think that once you feel it from somebody, you want to figure out how to take a step back, and whoever walks through that door, provide them with all of your intention, all of your attention, and make sure that that they know that you care about them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not easy at times when you have all these other things that you're thinking about through a day. And um, you know, it might be a small move of stepping away from your desk, behind your desk, to go sit with them at the table when they come in. So, it is to go back to listening, and to, that's hard at times because I want to insert my voice in certain meetings, and there's the weight of what you say as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I've had to learn through through feedback from other people and other administrators that the timing of inserting your voice into really the power of listening. And that can go a long ways, especially when you're trying to help somebody feel like they're the most important person when they come in, and that whatever they're dealing with is the most important thing at that time to you.
Yeah, even when it's not, right? And
Right.
even when they're complaining about something that is completely ridiculous and we should not even be wasting our time with it, it matters enough to them, and you have to you have to let them know that it matters, even if you think this is ridiculous. I'm not going to follow this. I'm not going to like pursue anything with this because it's a waste of everybody's time. It still
Right.
matters to them. How do you manage those situations when somebody brings something that is just completely ridiculous to you, but very valuable to them?
I think getting multiple voices, and perspectives through that idea, and really helping them understand the impact of what it would have on our school, and always tying it back to the mission and vision of our school, and our three core beliefs: the family, excellence, and relationships. The one thing that's really important, and I think has provided, uh, I would say, access to me at all times, is just the communication with that. If my door's open, walk in, and I've heard this open door policy, but then it doesn't work. Like there is, you know, um, the principal would not be available, and you can't get to them. You got to get on their schedule and things like that. We give out our work cell phones, both my assistant principal and myself, and we say, if you can't get a hold of us, text us, set up a meeting with the AA to get on our calendar. If the doors open, walk in. So access is part of that. Them knowing that if there is an issue or something going on, or they need us, that they can get to us, and that creates the trust, and that you want to hear what they have to say, no matter what you're saying. Like, you know, that if it's not a great idea, and I think we honor the fact that all ideas are important, because it could be, 1 out of 10 could be a really, really great idea in that situation. So, we listen, and then part of it is we go back, and if it's something that I think fits where we're going as a school, and aligns with our mission and vision, then we take it to our leadership teams, and get the perspectives from, we call it the parliament team. It's our team leaders. We have one grade level team leader for each grade, and they get the rest of the voices from their team, and bring it back to the table to see if this fits where we're going as a school, so that we can stay hyper focused on our goals, and to make sure that it doesn't derail the level of consistency that we need day in and day out.
Yeah, I like that approach because it gives everybody an opportunity to express what's going on, but then it also gives them a way to know that they're getting a response, a way to know what that they're being heard by having a leadership team. Now you have more than just a leadership team. Can you break down the different leadership teams that you have in your school?
Yeah, when I first came on, I wanted a core team. I read, what book was I reading? Taking Action is what it was called. Taking Action.
Okay.
Multi-tiered systems of support is what the book is called. And we talked a lot about, and through my experiences, there had been small core teams, whether it's like a reading specialist or a instructional coach, and there would be the principal and the assistant principal, and then one other member. In my experiences in other schools, and when I got the job here at Shrevewood, became the principal. Now, I knew I wanted a core team, but I didn't want to call them the core team or the leadership team. And through my experiences before, it was that if we called them the leadership team, then other people in the building thought that they were above them. And I wanted to figure out a way. And the interim principal at the time, Dwayne Young, and I both collaborated on, well, what do you really want them to be able to do? And I would say, well, help me make key decisions, on instruction and our approach together as a building, and to help provide that professional development at times. And he's like, why don't you just call them the professional development team? And I thought that was a great idea. And then I started to get to know key members in the building. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of really, really smart people and talented people in our building. And I met our technology specialist, Kim Pasca. Her name is Kim Negro at this time. Um, she's just an amazing leader, somebody that I think that should be an assistant principal or principal someday. She's a good facilitator. We have Nadine Zorba, our ESOL lead, our reading specialist, instructional coach, the list goes on and on. So we had 9 members on this team, and they're equally talented people that brought something to the table when we were collaborating around how to make key decisions. And at the time, our building needed a lot of help and a lot of focus and structure. And I needed their voices in the room. And so we used that team as our core team to make some really, really key decisions or ideas. And, we do turnaround professional development with this team. And then I wouldn't say underneath them, I would say in alignment with them, we have our parliament team, which we call it the parliament team. It's a funny name. We call it the parliament team because it's a group of wise owls, and our mascot is owls. So we wanted to call it something different, just to be unique. And because team leaders in Fairfax County before was more of a liaison type position. You as the principal would give this information to team leaders, and they would all take it back to their team, and some would interpret the information or give the information to their team with only what they wanted to hear. And I would be sitting in those meetings like, no, I didn't say that. That's not what I wanted to come across. So we ended up coming up with a system to where they would apply in going into my second year, that they would apply, teachers would apply to become a parliament team lead. And we would do some turnaround training with them and build their leadership. And then also they would do some facilitation for their collaborative learning team. So there's 2 basically kind of equal teams that we use the parliament team to get multiple voices, and then we use the professional development team to do more turnaround training, professional development, managing the message. They're just strong leaders in the building that can help coach, more coaching leaders into leaders. So it's just a trickle down effect, and it's had tremendous impact on the rest of our teams. And them being that team, the professional development team, is always there to support collaborative learning teams in some way.
Mm-hmm. So then you have the collaborative learning teams as well, right? And so
Yeah.
we'll talk about
Yep.
those in just a second. But first, I want to talk about your Taking Action book by Mike Matos and Austin Buffum.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, I read that book several years ago. Very much influenced how I was doing things. And episode 100 of this podcast talked about the things that I implemented. And that's in the show notes, transformativeprincipal.org/episode 100. Because what we're able to see is that we could really, if we did things right, we could really manipulate our day to meet the needs of our kids, manipulate teacher schedules, student schedules, and do it all in the service of supporting kids. And as you take that approach, it really changes what you're doing and allows you to be creative in ways that you didn't think that you could otherwise. So let's talk about your collaborative teams as well, because that's now a third group of teams in your school. And what I like about all these different teams is that it's giving everybody an opportunity to have access to a leadership voice rather than it just being the principal and assistant principal or something very hierarchical and siloed that you're getting, because there's a lot of. So talk about the collaborative teams.
So each grade level team. So the grade level teams are the collaborative learning teams, and they meet twice a week, and we call them our CLTs. And we meet once for math, once for language arts, and then they would have the other 3 days for planning. And most of the times, those CLTs, they end up being CLTs that meet every day, basically.
Yep.
But they're not driven and supported by our professional development team. So when I first came on, the CLTs were guided by our instructional coach, just because I wasn't able to be in those CLTs every day because we were restructuring how we operate as a school, and I was just really learning about all the other areas in our building. And to be honest with you, completely overwhelmed at that time with getting to know everybody, community members and everything. So I said to our instructional coach at the time, you're going to drive these CLTs. But now our instructional coach ended up moving on to an assistant principal position in Fairfax County. She got promoted, and through her knowing that she was going to move on, we started to help our Parliament team members, which basically are our team leaders, become leaders to facilitate these CLTs, which she was doing before. So, we're moving away from the instructional coaching model here at Shrevewood, and because we have such a strong professional development team to support the instructional needs of these CLTs and to guide and probe the thinking, challenge the thinking at times, and help them stay consistent in these meetings and to not veer off and just pace, but they're looking at data and they're analyzing data and they're looking at bringing students up to the multi-tiered systems of support team that also focuses in on academic and behavioral needs. So we meet to come back to the question, we meet twice a week for CLTs, but they usually get together every day. And they're really consistent now on the structure of our CLTs, and it's in a really, really good place where we can get creative with the staffing that we had from our instructional coach to do other things with, for sure.
Yeah, so the last thing that I want to ask you about is related to the 54% engaged school community to a 94% engaged school community. How do you measure that, and what does that actually mean?
So we have a K-12. So as administrators, we have a staff engagement survey that goes out. It's supposed to go out yearly. It didn't go out last year. It went out my first year, and that baseline data of 54% engaged community, it's around how we interact with each other. They ask, I think it's about close to 50 questions. They ask it to our entire staff. And it's all the things that we've talked about, like, does the principal give you access? It's about our environment in general. Do they have leadership opportunities? Do they have a voice in decision making? Does the school have a vision? All of those questions. Is the community involved in what we do as a school? Are you naturally happy when you come to work? Are you, do your colleagues value you as a person? Like, all of those questions. Those are just a couple examples, but the list goes on. And the county looks at, we do it. We're supposed to do it yearly, but we'll get one this year as well. But it's, we look at being able to look at that baseline data, which was 54% engaged before I came on, and then to receive the data. And I obviously know, because I'm so new, that naturally a building is going to, because of the new ideas and the new structure, go up in percentage, but I just didn't think it was going to be that high. And we want to continue to stay up in the 90s and the upper 90s. That's going to really tell if we're doing a fantastic job as a school community, if we can consistently stay engaged together and find creative ways to instill that culture of joy.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that we saved that question for the end, because it shows that all the things that you're doing are leading to this success indicator as a lagging indicator in another area. That's something that you don't measure every week to see how it's going, but it's something that shows over time as a positive force in the right direction. So, so I appreciate the final question I asked Josh is, what is one thing that a principal can do this week to be a transformative principal like you?
That is a loaded question, Jethro.
Thank you.
That is a loaded question. I would just say, be a learner every day. Find something that you can learn from somebody in your building. I learn from students. I'm learning from community members and our staff. I think that's just know that, be focused in on just being a learner. Good leaders and good educators learn every day, and I think that's super important. To continue to want to get better and just learn from each other and adjust and reflect and refine. all of those things are important, but I would say being a learner, that's the one thing that I continue to focus in on.
Yeah, very good. I think that's great advice, and you've really shown that today, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you so much for being part of Transformative Principal.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Jeff. It's been an awesome experience.
Yep, I agree. Thank you.